Hey everyone, and welcome to the Gen X Dad and his Gen Z Teens podcast. Hey, we're a program that takes a lighthearted look at generational differences about all sorts of topics. We try and explore all sorts of interesting things that we think will be fun to talk about, but we don't aim to be controversial or, at the end of the day, we're not the authoritative voice, certainly on any topic. It is also my opportunity to publicly and on the record, as always, prove that I am right and my teens are wrong in all cases, and that the 80s and the 90s were absolutely the best time to grow up. Hey, today our topic is going to be about teen influencers, or just influencers on teens. And so there's certainly big differences. And again, as we see in most cases, it boils down to the internet and how the internet has changed a lot of things. When I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, it was the people who had platforms were singers, actors, sports people. Those were the main ones that would have, your teen idol singers, your teen actors. And then if there was any kind of sports type heroes, young people in college maybe, or, guys who were going for the Heisman Trophy or things. But what I remember, there were different. Brooke Shields was still relatively young in the 80s doing movies. Michael Jackson just come out of the Jackson 5, but he was solo. I think he was 18 or 19. Obviously had a big platform, a lot of influence. Obviously in the 90s you started getting into the boy bands and things like that. And so, there were influence. Teen Magazine, I remember being a thing, I think mostly for girls. But there wasn't the level of even gaming magazines that I remember my younger siblings having or things like that. And so, your influences definitely came from mainstream media and, the stuff that we thought about back then. Nowadays, the internet has just exploded. There's influencers at all ages, all the way down to little tiny kids that talk about toys. We were watching a program yesterday which kind of got me thinking on this topic, which was something about Mr. Beast. Now, I didn't know much about Mr. Beast until really probably 6, 8, 9 months ago, but did not realize he's the number one YouTuber influencer out there. And what caught my attention was the statistic that he has a bigger audience alone than most than all, I think, mainstream media companies out there. And so with that, I want to do maybe a little bit more where my teens are talking about the influencers that they're exposed to going forward. So why don't you talk a little bit about Mr. Beast, whether you follow him or at least kind of what you know about him?
Yeah, no, I started watching Mr. Beast actually a long time ago, before, way back before he kind of became what he is now. And he's definitely changed a lot over the years. But, kind of the formula he's settled on now, for a while, it works. It's entertaining. It works especially for younger audiences. And I've followed him for a long time. I don't anymore, but he's a huge influence. And I think just in general, the internet has kind of blown open the door to a lot more opportunities for people to kind of become their own influencers and make money off it through, sponsorships and stuff like that. So I think, we still have the traditional, musicians, sports people, and, your traditional, movie stars, celebrities like that. But now, there's a new kind of class of, like, internet celebrities, people who are, whether they got popular on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever, of people who have blown up there and kind of have found their own audience. And in some ways are just as big or even bigger than some of these traditional, your traditional movie stars, musicians, or athletes. So, I think it's really changed a lot.
Okay, what do you think about that?
Thing about influencers, they can be very good in some cases and also be very bad in the way they, influence people and all that. Like, for example, they could promote things that could help us, like Mr. Beast did with Team Trees and Team Seas, or they could be negative with scams and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point with the scams and everything, but I mean, I would say you guys pretty quickly went into the whole influencer model. I mean, I remember because it was one of the strangest things. You guys started watching the videos, particularly about Minecraft, but the challenges or different things that people would come up for. And I always thought it was strange that you guys would watch people playing video games. And one of the guys was what, Dan TV or something like that. I mean, what do you remember about your first exposure to some of that and about how old you were?
Yeah, I mean, when I was like really young, watching a lot of, especially like the Minecraft videos and stuff, and also kind of back in that time, that was a huge part of YouTube was the kind of the gaming stuff and stuff like that, and those kind of types of people were the first to blow up and kind of get the huge followings on YouTube. Again, like you said, Dan TDM or PewDiePie was a huge one. People like that, who, like I said, started out with, they were playing video games. And I mean, it's sort of, I would almost consider it, in the same line of watching, someone play a sport. It's sort of the same, type of thing. Obviously, it's different, but that would be like the closest, I guess, thing I could match it to, in like, the pre-internet era.
Okay. Now, we talked about this in a previous episode about television, but would you say that you watch more traditional media or more internet media right now?
Definitely more stuff on the internet. Just because I don't know, it's more interesting, more entertaining. In my opinion, it's not really much on television that I really care for at this point. So, yeah, most of it's on the internet.
Okay, so then logically that means most of anything that could influence you would come from the internet. Have you ever bought or done anything based on a recommendation from somebody from the internet?
Oh, yeah, I mean, tons of times. And I think at this point most people do nowadays because, I mean, again, it's a place where you can go and get a bunch of different opinions on something, within the span of a couple minutes. So I think it's, really helpful with that, and it definitely has influenced a lot of my decisions and what I've bought or spent money on.
All right, what about you?
Not really that much, only if whatever is being advertised or something is interesting enough and if it's free. And if I think it's interesting, I'll do a little bit of research and then maybe I'll try it out, and if I like it, then I'll keep it, but if I don't really care about it, and then I'll just delete it or something.
Okay, I mean, that's fair. Now, look, celebrities have always hawked products of various forms. On traditional media, you see it a lot. I mean, that's why they're all in all the commercials. And recently, I mean, actually, the Olympics are ending today. I mean, we've watched a bunch of the Olympics. How many commercials have had Olympians in there? I mean, I would say the majority of them going forward. Now, I am interested, again, as part of influencer type stuff. A lot of the ways influencers become influencers is by subscriptions. The bit that I do on YouTube, I don't know that I'm actually subscribed to many or channels at all. What would you say? Are you subscribed to any channels?
No, not really. I don't really care about that.
I am if there's a channel I'm like particularly interested in, but I think I probably don't do it as much as an average person. I just kind of rely on my feed and just kind of the recommendations.
Okay. Now, it's interesting that obviously we're doing a podcast hoping for subscribers, and we're actually pushing this onto YouTube too, hoping for subscribers. So maybe we should do a better job of trying to support other channels going for it. Nope, I'm getting a shake of the head. So anyway, to those of you out there, I think that is a pretty decent way to reciprocate back, because we have a certain number of subscribers for our own channel, and obviously we'd like people to pay attention to our content. That being said, let's get some final thoughts on what do you think the impact on influencers on you. I mean, obviously these folks get paid quite a bit once you reach a certain level of success. Is there any begrudging of anything of that by them? I mean, just any thoughts? Are they looked up to? What do you think?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is it's sort of created a whole nother, category of advertisement, up along with, traditional like commercials or billboards or stuff like that, where, you do a sponsorship with, in whatever influencer or something you choose. So it's just kind of a new way of doing things and a new thing. I mean, it's just kind of how it is now.
I totally agree with that. It's a new wave of a platform for something. Okay. Any last thoughts?
Nope.
Succinct as always, my young one. Okay. Well, again, for those of you out there, we certainly appreciate you listening. We'd love any comments about, channels or influencers that you think are worth people paying attention to, and any thoughts you might have on the differences. In this particular case, I got to chalk this one up to the kids and the internet, because one, that's what we're doing right here, right now, trying to in some way influence you to listen to us, but also understand that this really has given a platform to so many more people all over the world, and it's been an opportunity for a lot. And I certainly don't begrudge those folks who are working hard and doing their best to do this. So with that, again, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. This has been the Gen X Dad and his Gen Z Teens. Till next time. Bye.